Hello, my name is Matthias Cavodi. I'd like to welcome guys to my channel. Today we're going to talk about Fear Itself, The Fearless, a 12-part story that was really awesome compared to the crossover. This is the aftermath of that story and the repercussions, and it was really solid. It revolves around Valkyrie, and I was really surprised because the Fear Itself crossover itself, I didn't like it too much. I was like, back then Marvel was pumping out crossovers almost every year, and I was getting some crossover fatigue by this time, and the whole story with the serpent, I just didn't like it. There wasn't too much build up, no build up actually, to the character, the serpent himself. But the aftermath of the story, freaking solid. I do recommend it before I spoil the hell out of it. So without further ado, let's get into this. So after Fear Itself, Thor was killed very briefly. He came back in no time. Like Bucky also was killed in that story and was immediately brought back too. That's another thing about crossovers, is that Marvel would kill off characters and they would come back very, very quickly. That's something that really, really gets on my nerves. Like, if you kill off a character, keep them out of action at least 2-3 years. Like, build up some anticipation. So, with Thor out of the picture, Valkyrie has to clean up the big Asgardian mess left behind, the whole destruction because of the serpent, who was the long lost missing brother of Odin. So Asgard brought all kinds of trouble to Midgard. So the story actually starts off with Valkyrie. She pops up in Midgard. She doesn't understand why, back during the Second World War, and she's sort of trapped on Earth, and she doesn't understand. Not only her, a lot of these Asgardian creatures are also trapped on Earth with her. So she wants to investigate, find out who's the one behind her being in Midgard. So that's the whole basic, the first big premise of the story, is what happened in the past. Then we cut to the present day, where this is actually very well characterized, and I have to really commend the writers. Actually, there were a ton of writers on this story. You had Cullen Bunn, Matt Fraction, and Christopher Yost, the three writers credited to this story. Art by Mark Bagley, and the covers are done by Art Adams, which I love his art. So back to the story. And Captain America is like really pissed off that Odin's dirty little secret led to the destruction of the U.S. Capitol, all kinds of destruction in New York City, across the United States, San Francisco, the whole 9 yards. A ton of people died. Buggy's dead for a very brief time. So he's like really pissed off with Valkyrie. He's like, hey, did you know anything about this? Are there any other Odin secrets that we should know about? And Valkyrie actually tells Cap, it's like, look, I need to get the hammers. There were 8 hammers. That was another thing I didn't like about that crossover. There were 8 hammers the serpent used, with each one having a host, so you can have a ton of crossovers. But what Valkyrie wants and asks Captain America is like, look, they're Asgardian in nature. I need you to turn the hammers over to me so I can take care of them. And Cap is like, no way. We're not, like, Asgard was totally irresponsible with this whole question with the serpent. We're going to take care of this. So this is the second big premise of the story, is Valkyrie is going to be sort of a renegade character. She's going to search out all the missing hammers and put them to safety. At the same time, we have Crossbones working with Sin, the female Red Skull, because she also wants the hammers. She has a terribly evil plot. It's like a phase 2 in the Serpent's plan, that obviously he was defeated in Fear Itself story. So basically we have Valkyrie going on this fetch quest, going across the world. She's going to end up at odds with a bunch of heroes. First, she's after Red Skull's hammer, which is in possession of the Secret Avengers, which leads her to battle with War Machine. So obviously in this very brief battle, Valkyrie is able to take War Machine down, and now she is on the run. Then she goes to Transylvania to find the hammer that the Hulk had. Actually, he was battling against Dracula back during that story arc and destroyed the hammer. So she has to find what's left of that. So we discover in the past that Valkyrie actually meets one of these vampires called, I can't remember his name. Give me 1 second. Kodo, something like that. I probably butchered that name. And I remember back then Marvel was like really pushing this vampire character, Razor Kodo, in this group of vampire misfits. And so they had crossed paths in the past. Now she's in Transylvania. She crosses paths with Razor again. They battle over the hammer, while Crossbones in under the city of Paris finds Grey Gargoyle's hammer. So we have to keep counting how many hammers each character has. So after a brief battle, Razor decides to give Valkyrie what's left of Hulk's hammer, and Razor sort of tells her, "Is like, hey, what's up? You sort of have a death wish with you. Like, what's going on? What's driving you this way? Because this mission is going to just totally destroy you." So she gets hunted down by the Secret Avengers, which we have Black Widow, Sharon Carter. I think this is the Eric O'Grady Ant-Man, Shang-Chi, and I don't know who the hell is this guy. So when she's trying to leave Transylvania, they're attacked by a horde of vampires. And just look at Art Adams' art. It's just fantastic. I really enjoy his work. So we go back to the past, and we discovered that there's like the secret society within Nazi Germany. It was like the Thule Society, I think it's called. They would do all types of experiments, and they're the one responsible for invoking Valkyrie and all these beings from Asgard to Earth to be able to experiment on and use them as weapons. So we have Valkyrie having to deal with this whole situation and having to clean these guys, the Thule's evil work in Midgard. While all this is going down, this like mystical spider jumps into Valkyrie's bag. This is going to be bad news further down the line in this particular story. We get the introduction of these guys called the DOA that are working with the Sin and with Crossbones. They're like their hired muscle. They all have demonic powers. And actually, I don't remember if these guys ever pop up outside of the story, because actually they're sort of cool. I really like, especially this guy's power set, which is super gross. He uses his intestines and body parts as weapons and stomach acid. It's really gross. So, story progresses. We discover that Valkyrie's taking all these hammers to this secret place. We don't know where it is. She's storing them. And what we discover actually in the backstory is that this place is actually like sort of a construct out of her own soul. Odin made this sort of pocket dimension. So, because the main mission of the Valkyries, outside of being the ones that ushered warriors into Valhalla and being Odin's handmaids, they were created to find the serpent's hammers that were scattered across the world. And once they have them, they have to commit the sacrifice of incorporating the hammers into their souls and disappearing from existence. So this is actually a representation of the place where she's going to take the hammer, and this place is going to disappear with the hammers, and she's going to sacrifice herself. So it's pretty crazy and convoluted, but it does add a little bit to the Valkyrie's story arc that they were created to find these hammers. So as the story progresses, we have Sin and Crossbones find Namor's hammer, actually not Namor's, Atuma's hammer, which actually was swallowed by a shark. So we get a pretty cool moment where they blow up this ginormous shark. They cross paths with Namor, but Sin's able to pull fast one on him, and they're able to escape. Then we get a really cool part where Valkyrie tries to get Thing's hammer. She goes to the Fantastic Four's base, and Thing just is there, just tells her, like, take it. Whatever you do, just take it. I don't want anything to do with this. We get to see action back in the day with the invaders battling against what seems to be a destroyer robot, which actually has an ice giant in it. So we learn more about the whole situation with all these mystical beings that were evoked by the Thule Society. Valkyrie's taken back to Asgard by Enchantress. Then we have Crossbones and the DOA attacking the Thunderbolts. We get a pretty cool and quick battle between Luke Cage and Crossbones, because both of these characters have history together, because Crossbones was forced to be on Luke Cage's Thunderbolts. So that was a pretty cool reference there. They get defeated. They lose their hammer. And what we discover is that the destroyer, the first destroyer, was actually created by the Serpent, by Cullen. And all the sleeper robots that the Red Skull had been using over the years were actually prototypes of the destroyer. So they really tie very well Captain America's mythos and Red Skull's mythos with Asgard in a really cool way that I thought was pretty interesting. So what Red Skull's after is to use these hammers to power this destroyer. That is just, obviously, it's a monstrous powered destroyer that's going to destroy the world, being super, super redundant there. But so we learn more about the story. Then there's a hammer that's hidden away in Project Pegasus. We have all the Avengers there. They're all ready for an attack from the DOA. Hordes upon hordes of demons start attacking all at the same time. And here we get a pretty, and look, Mark Bagley's art is really awesome. I love his art. And we get an awesome battle between Crossbones and Wolverine. So here's the battle I was telling you guys about. Obviously, Wolverine would totally be able to take Crossbones down. But what happens is he gets blindsided. And what we discover is Hellstrom changes sides. She decides to join Sin in her mission to basically destroy the world, because he says once she does her task in turning Earth into hell, he's going to be the king of hell. So Damien Hellstrom becomes a bad guy during this brief time during Marvel. There's also conflict between Hellstorm and Crossbones as the story progresses, which Crossbones is not happy with the whole idea of destroying the world. He just wants to be a thug, cause trouble, but he doesn't want to end the world. So as the story progresses, Valkyrie ends up going to Utopia. She confronts by I can't remember, Mirage, Danny Moonstone. I can't remember the character's last name. Mirage, Danny. She used to be a Valkyrie too, and she tells her, "It's like, take the hammer if you want. We don't want it here." But Emma Frost intervenes. It's like, "No way, you're not going anywhere, and we're gonna make the other superiors happy. I'm gonna read your mind, find out where all those other hammers are." We get an epic battle between Valkyrie and Storm, which is pretty awesome. There's a moment where Valkyrie nails Storm with the hammer that I thought to myself, Storm would be totally dead. She would have broken her neck, her whole face. It would have been a mess. But obviously Storm survives. She's tougher than nails. And at the end, we get the final confrontation. We got all the heroes. Like, it feels like a crossover, this particular story, because we get the Avengers, Fantastic Four, the X-Men, everyone on board. They're battling the final destroyer. This is insane, the amount of power that this story has. But like, the whole build up to this, I really liked the whole story. But the final chapter where they have to battle the destroyers, man, it's just okay. You've seen this type of thing 100 times before. It's not too interesting, but I do like how they really build up Valkyrie as a character, make her look as a badass, make her to be really powerful. They build up her mythos. They make her a lot more interesting. Before this, I didn't care too much for Valkyrie. After this, I thought she to be a pretty interesting character. So I'm going to leave this video here. It was probably a mess, but this story is worth the while. It's a pretty fun read. See you guys next time. Bye.